The autumn wind howled through the skeletal branches of the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of damp earth and decay. Emily Grayson, a young journalist with a penchant for the paranormal, had heard the rumors about Blackthorn Holloa, forgotten patch of forest on the outskirts of a sleepy New England town. Locals claimed it was cursed, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin. They spoke of whispers in the dark, of shadows that moved without light, and of people who ventured in and never returned. Emily, ever skeptical but desperate for a story to revive her flagging career, decided to investigate. She arrived at the edge of the hollow just before dusk, her backpack slung over one shoulder, stuffed with a flashlight, a notebook, and a recorder to capture any strange sounds. The forest loomed before her, a dense wall of gnarled trees and underbrush that seemed to swallow the fading sunlight. A weathered sign, barely legible, warned, "Keep out, danger." Emily smirked, chalking it up to small-town superstition, and stepped into the woods. The air grew colder the deeper she went, the crunch of leaves under her boots the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. Her flashlight beam danced across the trees, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to writhe just beyond her vision. She shook off the unease creeping up her spine and pressed record on her device. October 14th, 2025. 6:47 p.m. Entering Blackthorn Hollow to investigate local legends. So far, nothing but trees and a creepy vibe. The forest felt alive, watchful. She stopped to jot down notes, her pen scratching against the paper. She heard a faint whisper, like a breath against her ear. "Emily." She froze, her heart pounding. The voice was soft, almost tender, but unmistakably real. She spun around, her flashlight sweeping the darkness, but there was nothing. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling slightly. No response. Just the rustle of leaves in the wind. She laughed nervously, convincing herself it was her imagination, and continued deeper into the hollow. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as she pressed on. They weren't words she could decipher, but a chorus of overlapping voices rising and falling like a tide. Recorder crackled, picking up fragments of sound hisses, murmurs, and something that sounded like a child's giggle. Emily's skepticism wavered, but her curiosity pulled her forward. She stumbled into a small clearing where the trees parted to reveal a crumbling stone well, its mouth yawning like a black pit. The whispers seemed to emanate from the well, a low, pulsating hum that made her skin crawl. She approached cautiously, peering over the edge. The darkness inside was absolute, swallowing her flashlight's beam. She leaned closer, her recorder still running, and dropped a small pebble into the well. It fell for what seemed like forever before a faint splash echoed back. Then, silence. "Emily." The whisper came again, clearer now, from inside the well. Her breath caught in her throat. She backed away, her mind racing. This wasn't a story anymore, this was real. She turned to leave, but the whispers surged, a cacophony of voices screaming her name. Her flashlight flickered, then died, plunging her into darkness. Panic clawed at her chest as she fumbled for her phone, but its screen was black, the battery inexplicably dead. The air grew heavy, pressing against her like a physical force. Shadows moved in the corners of her vision. She ran, branches tearing at her clothes, the whispers chasing her, now a deafening roar. "Stay with us, Emily. Stay forever." She burst out of the hollow, collapsing onto the grass at the forest's edge, gasping for air. The whispers stopped abruptly, replaced by the distant chirping of crickets. Her hands shook as she checked. Her recorder, it was still running. She played it back, expecting to hear the voices, but there was only static, punctuated by a single, chilling sentence in her own voice. "I'll never leave." Emily drove back to her motel, shaken, but alive. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the well, felt the weight of those shadows. That night she dreamed of the hollow. In her dream, she stood at the well's edge, and hands cold, gray, and impossibly long reached up from the darkness, pulling her down. She woke screaming, her room filled with the faint echo of whispers. Determined to leave the town and forget Blackthorn Hollow. But as she loaded her car, she noticed something in her backpack, a small, damp stone, like the one she'd dropped into the well. Her blood ran cold. She hadn't taken it with her. She threw it into the parking lot and sped away, vowing never to return. Weeks passed and Emily tried to move on. She published a vague article about local folklore, omitting the worst details. But the whispers never left her. Came at night, soft at first, then louder, calling her name from the shadows of her apartment. Her recorder, which she'd locked in a drawer, began playing on its own, looping that same chilling phrase, "I'll never leave." One night, unable to sleep, Emily sat up in bed, the whispers now a constant hum in her ears. She felt a pull, an urge to return to the hollow, as if something was summoning her. She drove through the night, the road stretching endlessly before her, until she stood once again at the edge of Blackthorn Hollow. The forest was silent now, the air thick with anticipation. She walked to the clearing, drawn to the well like a moth to a flame. The whispers were gone, replaced by a single voice, her own, echoing from the depths. "Come home, Emily." She leaned over the well, her reflection distorted in the faint moonlight. But it wasn't her face staring back, it was something else, pale, eyeless. Its mouth stretched into a grotesque smile. Before she could scream, the hands emerged, dozens of them, gray and claw-like, wrapping around her arms, her legs, her throat. They pulled her into the well, her screams swallowed by the darkness. The next morning, the town found her car abandoned at the edge of the hollow. Her backpack lay nearby, her recorder still running. When they played it back, it was silent except for a final blood-curdling whisper. "She's ours now." In Blackthorn Hollow, the well stood silent, waiting for its next guest.